welcome to the Coach Me podcast. My name is Nadine Stille, founder of Coach Me and your podcast host. Thank you for tuning in as I welcome executive and business coach Karen Flynn, who is a high impact coach for expat career professionals from diverse cultural backgrounds, entrepreneurs, and startups. After a successful career in communications for over 20 years in Asia, Karen trained as a coach with CTI in the UK. Following her transition from agency owner to executive coach and her journey from Asia to the UK to Vancouver, Canada, she now works with clients globally to expand their perspectives and to be their confidential sounding board. Karen's expertise is with reluctant and unfulfilled leaders who she helps to see how powerful their specializations, experience, and efficiency transform the workplaces and businesses so they adopt a strong narrative in representing themselves and their ambitions. She encourages them to take a meta view of their opportunities and to be brave, which leads us nicely to our podcast topic today. Embrace your experience to shine as a leader and role model. During this podcast, we will find out why some mature employees feel threatened in the workplace and how COVID has amplified this. We cover some coaching questions to help us unearth what's really causing fear and learn tips to embrace our many years of experience and lead us towards brave action. Oh, and we get to hear about Karen's book, Go Beyond Resilience, Find Your Grit. Let's have a listen. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm really delighted you invited me.
Yeah, well, I'm really looking forward to today's topic. It's something that you're obviously very passionate about. And yeah, I'd love to know more about it in a moment. But first of all, I'd like you to tell me a bit about yourself. Let's get straight in.
A little bit about me. I'm truly a global child, born and raised in the West Indies, left when I was 18, traveled, ended up having most of my career in Asia. I was in Singapore for 20 some years. I became a Canadian in the 1990s. I love this. There's something about Canada that just resonated the moment I stepped foot here back in 1988 or 1986. And I love it. I've come to Vancouver. It has a special place in my heart because I settled here in the 90s and my daughter was born here. So for me, I feel West Indian, but at the same time, I'm very Canadian. So here I've come back for my second chapter in life. To do coaching, and my daughter's in university, and settling into life here in Vancouver and loving every minute of it.
Great. So how did you come to coaching? What drove you to it?
I fell into coaching at the time that I was stepping out of corporate life. I was petrified. I knew nothing else. Like literally, I had no hobbies. I had been an agency owner, communications agency owner for so long, and I was petrified. What's next? I wasn't ready for retirement, that's for sure. Somebody suggested speaking to a coach, which I'd never thought of. She just brought so much. She unpacked so much for me and made me see that there was so much value left beyond corporate life. And I loved that gift that she gave me. And so I looked into training as a coach after that. And I was in the UK at the time. So I looked around for credible coaching outfits and I settled on CTI. I loved the philosophy of it and became a coach. And I started coaching people from my industry, from the advertising and communications industry because of the amount of burnout that I had seen over the years. And so it really started organically from there. The gift that I was given through coaching and the second wind. And I I just love doing that for people now.
Yeah, I mean, your face kind of glows up, and it's like, that's my second wind. And you mentioned earlier already, it's your second, your second career in it, and even phrases like the gift of coaching. That's it is a typical kind of, it really fits in with the realm of coaching, but it really is that it's a mindset way of how you're seeing it. So it totally comes through with how passionate you are about coaching.
Because people were talking to me about, when you sell your business and you're not going to be an entrepreneur anymore and you're coming up to being an empty nester. And those words just seem like a sentence to me. It's like empty nester. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
I just knew I had so much more left in me.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I really needed, to sit in front of somebody who helped me to just move some layers around and just, took away some blinders. And that's fantastic for another human being to just help you to work through that. And I did it on my own, right? I came to the decisions on my own for what's next, but having that powerful conversation with someone, I had never experienced anything like that before.
You still have to do the work yourself. You did it, right? And you wanted more, and you sought out help, support to get you there, but you still did the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it probably did take some work, right?
It's very scary. It's like, do what? Start what? Oh, I'm too old for that.
but here you are, right? Yeah. What you just said, what was it? I'm too old for that?
I'm too old for that.
Yeah. I hear that quite often too. It's like, I'm too young, too old, too inexperienced, too experienced. Or,
anything.
To anything. Exactly. Yeah. And that kind of nicely ties in with our topic for today, which is embrace your experience and age to shine.
Yes.
And that good role models are always in demand.
Yeah.
So what makes you so passionate about that topic?
Well, I had that experience firsthand, right? I was doing business in Asia, in foreign cultures, sitting at the big table, feeling very out of sorts. And I knew the critic in my mind and the saboteurs that kept coming up. I didn't turn and speak to anybody about it, but in every big business meeting I went to and every notch of the career ladder I went, I was always, really, am I really doing this? Can I do this? What the hell am I thinking? Can I go into this meeting and convince these people to spend $500,000? And they were constantly there, and it drives you nuts. It drove me nuts. And I wish I had found somebody to speak to. I wish I'd found that back then. So I understand that pressure that comes with getting older, and we kind of forget all the experience we've gathered. We look around the workplace and we see all these young, enthusiastic, go get 'em faces, and we're thinking, I can't compete. But actually, there are so many more tools to compete, right? You're not competing at that level. You're competing at a much higher level, the breadth and the depth that you bring to organizations. But we forget that.
Well, yeah, those voices keep coming up. It's like, it's like, you're thinking, it's a go away, and you have that confidence, but if you're not onto it, those little, I don't know, what do you refer to it? Like the little devil voice and the
I have the little
angel voice, or what
the little devil and the little saboteur, and
they come up.
And I just flick them off now. It's like I'm walking along the street and I'll do this. It's like, people are thinking, what the hell? She's crazy.
So that's for everyone who's not watching the video but listening in. You're just flipping your shoulder or something imaginary sitting on your shoulder. That's what you were doing.
That annoying voice.
Exactly. Okay. And so why do you think some mature employees, and I guess it's not just like leaders or managers, but mature employees overall feel threatened in the workplace?
I think we're programmed to just take less risks as we get older, right? It's an inherent human thing. As we get older, we're thinking, oh no, I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to do this. I'm comfortable here. So to have a growth mindset, we have to push against what is happening naturally for us. And then we look at the others in organizations around us, and there's a sense of competition. I mean, and that has been the way in organizations for many decades. But instead of looking at those faces and seeing competition, I think it's almost something that we can turn to ourselves inward and go, but I can help. I can become a role model for my team. I can demonstrate all of the learning and the expertise that I have. My experience counts for something, right? Businesses wouldn't be able to run without experienced people. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, we need a lot of young blood and so on to get things done and new experience. But the fact is, and especially in 2020, when circumstances are so different for all of us, more fears come up than confidence. Because we get older, we're 30-some, 40-some, 50-some. We've acquired mortgages, car payments, all the lifestyle things that we have surrounded ourselves with. These things are wonderful, but they cause stress, added stress.
There's a lot at stake.
There is a lot more at stake as we get older. And so when that little voice pops up, it's a bigger story they're clouding our brain with. And so it's, I think for some, it's really easy to forget just how much value we bring to the workplace. And I was looking at, reading articles recently because I really love coaching people who are stressed as executives and they forget just these fundamentals. And it's just bringing us right back to those simple things. What do we bring? How much more are we after being in the workplace for 10 years, 15 years? There's just so much. But we forget. Fear takes over.
Yeah. And it's, like you said, it's a natural thing, especially now during, COVID times when it's this just like survive rather than the thrive part, right? And like covering the bases and what do you need? A bit of expansion, I don't know.
Yeah. And the culture of industry has become such that it's more competition. We see people around us, we're competing instead of, well, how can we work together? And that's one of the things that stood out for me in the last couple of months that I've been reading. It's as people are working remotely in isolation and just scattered all over the world. We need to find ways to work together. We need to create that social coercion. And it is the more mature, experienced employees that can champion that, right? Because they have probably gone through some tough times. Okay, they haven't gone through COVID. They've gone through some tough times with industry. And there's a lot of room for experience to champion such things.
And there's the need there as well. People are looking for people to like bring everyone together or say, hey, what can you relate this to? Or people are looking out for leadership. And you do not have to, yes, of course, you can be an executive or a manager, but you do not have to be having that title in order for people to seek you out as a role model and, model what it's like to stay calm in situations that maybe are stressful. Right?
Totally. They're saying the leaders that will stand out during this time are the ones that are showing empathy and compassion and really looking at the human nature of what this pandemic has done to our workplace. Yes, of course, we have to look at the financial implications. But the more successful CEOs and other leaders that will stand out is how they have managed to work with their teams to provide a lot more support, understanding what it's doing to people's mentality and well-being.
Yeah.
So,
again, it seems to be like a red thread through conversations that I've had in the past. I would say not just few months, but there was already that trend there before COVID hit about seeing the human side in things. It's not employee number, I don't know, 2000, whatever, but it's seeing the individual person there. And there's just so much more need for doing that right now, right?
I know. And my little wish for this year is that there is that opportunity for HR specialists to really step up and step out of what has been the norm for them and how they've practiced embracing all of these other things into the role. I know it's a big ask, but there is a way to kind of evolve that whole practice of how we look at human capital.
Of course. And, a few things. Where there's a will, there's a way, I want to say, or where there is a need, because there is a need right now. And not just businesses, but also people need to pivot and be flexible around it. And a few things that we thought weren't ever possible, suddenly, in some cases overnight, were possible.
Absolutely.
Right? So why not use that momentum and create something?
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wow. Right. So we talked about the fears that come up from managers to more senior roles, but like everything that we basically just talked about. But kind of what impact do those fears have on the person themselves, but also on the teams? When fear perseveres.
I think it's the thing that pops up certainly when I speak to people about it. It's as older, whether they're managers, directors, or whatever positions they are on teams, they start to see themselves differently in the workplace, for good or bad. And they feel like they can no longer ask for help if they're unsure of something. So many of the clients that I've spoken to, they kind of, a switch, I want to say, goes off because they're suddenly stumbling around in the dark. And they feel like, okay, I'm here. Everyone, all eyes on me. I need to do this. And they've put themselves in the confines of they're standing alone and everyone's just looking at them to deliver. But that's not what a team is all about, right? Yeah. That's not the way to lead. And so they put themselves in this very stressful, isolated position. And I go back my days in Asia, there's the whole big thing about face. If we do certain things or we lose face. And I think that has transcended now to this, where managers and leaders feel like they cannot be vulnerable with their team. They can't work together and say, okay, I know I'm doing this and you guys are all together, but I need your help. Those words never come out of their mouths because they feel like it would put them on a disadvantage somehow. And I feel like we need to turn that around, make it much more upfront as to how we're going to get through these tough times together. What do you need to demonstrate as a leader? And do you now step beside your team and lead from the side instead of from the top? And what does that look like? All of the soft things that you have to provide for a team to really thrive and grow and prosper. The needs are different now. So I think leaders are getting there in the end, but it's a stressful transition.
Yeah.
And it's taking its toll. So, and financial pressures really make that amplified for many.
Yeah.
So,
and after all, they're also just humans, right?
Human beings. That's right.
They're also human beings.
That's totally right.
What's different for, them than the people that they're working with? And it's, I've experienced it myself, and I'm curious to know where that thinking comes from, that they need to be an expert at everything. And need to provide all the answers, when all, throughout everything, it's the diversity of everyone's background and skills and knowledge that's right drives the team up, right? So it's they might be even at a disadvantage if they do not harvest that combined experience and ideas and whatever from the team.
But that's the fundamental of a team, right? Everyone working together, and we forget that. Like suddenly, okay, I'm managing the team. Okay, what does that mean? You're like 20 feet ahead pulling, or what is it? It's just the image, right?
Yeah. And stress is probably all that causes that, right?
Yeah.
So an impact on what's the impact on the team? If
well, some of the things that I ask the clients are, do you think your team sees you differently? How? Why? What's changed? Circumstances are different. They're more complex. There's a lot more at stake now. But when you were in this role a year ago, what's changed? Who's putting all of these other expectations on you? It's you.
Yeah.
And that many times is the reality. It's them.
Yeah. So you've already, came up with or just mentioned some of the coaching questions that you would ask them to, where they were back then, what now, come to some realizations. What are some other coaching questions? Someone's like kind of listening in right now and, feels like, oh gosh, this resonates with me too. Do you have...
I have to say, I'm a very direct coach. So I say it like it is. And so clients who come to me have to be prepared for discomfort.
Isn't that where the growth happens, Karen? Right?
I know. And that's right. I want my client to challenge me when I ask them questions as well. But I ask them things like, where is the fear coming from? When you hear that, whose voices do you hear? Can you pinpoint the voices? Because as an entrepreneur, you get fear coming at you from your business partner, from your CFO, things like that. As someone in a high position, earning a lot of money, you may feel that fear is coming from the voice of your partner. You want to provide and do all of this stuff. And so I asked that, where is that? Whose voice? Who's attached to that? Where is it coming from? And what has changed? Does your employer or your team expect differently of you? And you write it down, get some clarity on that. Where are the goalposts? Have you shifted them, or have they actually been shifted by others? And what do you expect of yourself? What do you tell yourself? Okay, I can do this, but this, I need a little bit of help. Are you willing to admit that? Are you willing to ask for help? How do you lead a team if you're constantly this boulder of strength and you're always right and you show no vulnerability, and the team they would see you as inapproachable, really. So how do you lead? How do you do all these things this year in 2020? It's really taken us back to fundamentals, and that makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it's like, what Well, I just wanted to say is like, who put that in there? Is that how you actually want to be?
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
There's some, I can see how this is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But getting clarity around that.
Yeah. I think luckily our world is changing and industry is changing, but the tradition of industry has been this fierce, competitive environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so we put on our suit of armor, leave the house, get in the car, and go to work. It's certainly the way I was in my career for 20 some years. But it's different now, and it's okay to make some changes.
Yeah.
So you don't have to. And I address this to some of the older workers, the more experienced workers in organizations. It's not saying just discard all of the old ways of doing things, but certainly there are some new, gentler ways treating yourself in business.
Yeah. And
it's okay to bring that on board. Because if you are to be an effective leader and a great role model, this is what your team is going to expect of you. And this is how the team is going to thrive.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah. What if your team actually wants you to be that way?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's no, the fear factor might be out of that then.
Yeah.
A bit more or less a safety net. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some tips that you could also bring on board or share for someone who's going through something like that?
Let's see. I think employees who have been around the block a few times and know they bring a depth of experience with them. I think I mentioned it earlier. It's just learning new skills themselves, being a little more human in the workplace, addressing those things on teams, shying away from just the corporate goals and 360 assessments and all of those hard things that we have grown up in business doing, just kind of stepping into a slightly softer way of doing it. And I think that's, if we are going to lead and our workforce is going to include younger, Gen X and so on, we have to adapt. We're not too old to adapt. We can adapt, and we will find it a lot more joyful in the workplace. So, and that, that's not a word you would hear in the workplace 20 years ago, right? But my biggest advice to people who are feeling this fear and wondering, well, look at my younger colleagues and I worry about the next promotions. Like, no, you may worry, but if you adapt and bring on board all of those other skills that are there in you as a human being, show your leadership style, show the breadth of your experience, become a great mentor to the team, because mentorship will never be more critical as it is now. It really is. It's just so critical right now. And just kind of soften the edges and bring more into how you're playing. I think it's just, their faces light up when they think that they can actually bring all of this to the table. It's just a freedom, because it's, even though you're bringing more on board, it's like removing shackles. I don't have to put on this. Yeah, I don't have to put on this suit of armor. I can actually shed that and be myself a little bit more.
Yeah. And something that came up for me when you talked through your tips is something that we had mentioned earlier about, you're not too old, inflexible, incapable or whatever. No, you can totally all do this. Like, get rid of all these beliefs that it's
Yep.
just because you're in this position and you've had, I don't know, 20 plus years of work experience does not mean that this is the end of it, right?
Absolutely.
There are options, there are possibilities, and you can totally do it. Get rid of this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like what you actually mentioned earlier, what you were approached with after you left corporate life. Oh, this is kind of, get into retirement. That's it now. It's like, why? Where does that come from? Huh?
I know. Yeah. It's when I talk about evolving and becoming more free in the way you take yourself into the organization as a more mature worker. It takes people a few minutes. They look at me and go, what do you mean? You mean freedom? What? It's because you can just be yourself. You don't have to put on this persona because you're in the corner office in a suit and tie or whatever. You have your name on the door. Just be yourself. People want to know that they're working with a human being who has scary days and who's feeling it like they're feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, then you will see the change, the shift that happens on a team when you're there with them, demonstrating the empathy, compassion, understanding the human hit that's going on with, what's affecting us through COVID. It's not just financial, but it's a lot of mental well-being. It's at stake here.
Mm-hmm.
And if a leader can do that, demonstrate that, yep, it's affecting me too. I'm there with you. What can I do? How can I support you better?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of freedom that I talk about. And people go, oh, really? I can do that? Wouldn't they lose respect for me? I've heard that. It's like, wouldn't they lose? No, they would respect you even more.
Exactly.
You're a human being.
Yes, they would totally. And that creates a space for people to be more open themselves, to be themselves, to be creative around things. And that if you lead that way, it also takes off, baggage of everyone else in your team.
Absolutely.
Because, the knock-on effect is just massive. Yeah, I hear you.
The thing I read with this McKinsey report was, older, experienced workers have so much to leverage now in the workplace because we're looking for trusting relationships and we're looking for the other things that even though I'm sitting over here working and all I see my colleagues on Zoom and the other person, they're all, scattered everywhere. But there's something that can be built by someone who has been in the organization, who can pull people together. And that's why I said role models and mentors, rather. Mentors are critical at this stage to just kind of pull people together and go, we're in this together. What do you need? How can we engage the team? It's not just a Zoom call for 45 minutes, but what else is there? What are we sharing? Which pain points are we sharing here? So, I think there's a lot of possibilities as we revisit fundamentals in the workplace. And I just, again, I am so deeply grateful that I'm a coach, that I can help people because I want to work with people when I know I went through terrible trials and I didn't have that sounding board. It's like face the wall and just kind of figure it out. And now, mentorship is all around. You can find a good mentor and work with. You can find a coach. You can just chat with somebody, and it's just peeling away these layers of who we feel like we should be in the workplace.
It's
a burden.
Work should.
It's a burden.
Like, it is. It is totally. And working with the coach might just be the thing that's where you're saying, hey, I need that help right? It looks different. It takes on different forms. It's like, hey, I need maybe help from my team to work through, a particular scenario, or I might need help from a mentor or a coach, someone to confidentially talk through a few things that I may not be able to do at work. And that in itself is very resourceful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people actually, believe it or not, they will speak to me, and the one thing they require help is to be able to ask juniors for help.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't know how to do it. So how do I go to my team? They're not even managers, but how do I ask for help? Like, how would you ask anyone for help? They're human beings. Yeah. How do you see them? What are you looking at them and seeing?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, it's actually such a great things. Like, why would you expect that you would know all these things that someone who's just left university and studied the latest technology from, I don't know, a year ago or, half a year ago, that, you might know more about or do not need help with. And like would you call it like even reverse mentoring?
That's right. Reverse.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so for someone who does not know what that means, it's basically someone with less work experience or experience in a particular area, or someone, say, younger. Mentor someone. Someone younger is mentoring someone who's quite a bit older with something, that is they just know more about.
Yeah.
And it is a great work dynamic as well. It gives the younger one such a boost, and to have those insights. And you can, it can go both ways. The older employee might mentor something, the younger one on something else, and the possibilities through that is just amazing.
Tons of opportunities for growth. And that, this is a conversation for another time, but I say to older clients you work with a younger team, who are the customers in your business? They're their age. Let them shine. Let them, talk to you about the strategy. You're great at running the business. You run the business, but let them create, let them shine.
Yeah.
Because those are your customers.
Yes. And those people will stay on because they get, they see the challenge. They see how they're being valued, how their expertise is being appreciated. And, I don't know, they're not going to affect this forever. We can talk about this forever.
Yeah. We learn something. I love my work around young people. I do so much mentorship, and I work with grads. I work with third-year students. When they say something, my face just lights up because, it's so childlike and so true and honest that my 25 years of industry, I've forgotten that. And they say something, I go, God, you're right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, it can be very invigorating as well, right?
Yeah,
perfect. Sure. So, let's do a tiny bit of a pivot. For people who've tuned in and they do not know yet, you're, apart from being all these things that you just said, including a coach, you're also an author.
I am. Oh, and I was going to grab a copy of my book and show you. I forgot. It's over there.
Do you want to grab it? Go on and grab it.
Yes, please.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, let's do it.
Thank God for editing.
This is what we just talked about, being more human. Come on, we're of course going to leave this in.
I know. I made my cup of tea, but I didn't grab my book. That's my book.
Okay, what's it called?
It's called Go Beyond Resilience, Find Your Grit.
Okay.
And resilience is a hot topic, right? The last few years, it's just be resilient, be resilient. Yeah. For me, why I talk about finding your grit, your drive, I've been an immigrant in foreign cultures for many, many years. And I know what it takes to go to foreign land and set up your life. Since becoming a coach, one of my passion has been working with immigrants coming in. I do English classes. I do workshops on social cultures and things like that. I just admire so much their grit and their passion and their desire to create a better life for them and their families. And when I moved back to Vancouver after 15 years abroad, I started looking through all of my boxes and my journals and so on. I thought, you know what? Let's write about my first 50 years and all of my failures and my successes and what I've learned and why coaching has been so vital. You know? And that's what the book is about. It's part autobiography and part I ask questions. You know, how would you deal with this? How would you deal with this life-changing decision? And ever since I was a young girl, I made very bold decisions that really didn't sit well with friends and family. But I always knew I wanted to have best life possible, fulfilling wise, not material stuff. But what really drives me is when I do something, I experience something, I want to feel like it's moved me. That's my best life. You know, I want to sit as an 80-year-old woman and think, loved every minute. Loved it. And so that's where the book comes from. And I hope that people who read it, you know, find that bravery in them to get there. I started living my real life in my 40s. I think, you know, people can start earlier. They should start earlier.
But they're never too old.
Never too old. So read the book.
Yes. Great. Perfect. So, we'll pop the link in the notes later as soon as the podcast is uploaded, and take it from there as well. And we're nearly at the end. Can you believe it? I know. I feel like time flew by so quickly. And so for this season of the Coach Me podcast, we have the same 3 questions for everyone.
Okay.
And we're true to form, where you've asked a bold question. I wanted to say it's not really. So the original question was like, what's a book recommendation? But since we've already covered that halfway through, it's like, of course, it's going to be your own book. You are very passionate about a particular TED Talk you wanted to mention and recommend to people. What is that?
I've been revisiting TED Talks since I'm fed up now with Netflix and Amazon. So back onto TED Talks. This one, Forget the Pecking Order by Margaret Heffernan. She delivered this in 2015 at TED Women. And she speaks of social sensitivity and how our connectedness it makes an impact in the workplace. More so over intelligence, which is remarkable, right? Some people will find that just insane. But for a productive and dynamic workplace, she talked about sensitivity and helpfulness over hierarchy. And I love that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So we'll pop the link in the show notes as well for people to check out. And ideally, let us know then, get in contact maybe on social media on what they thought about the talk and how it relates to them. So that's cool. Great. Then I'd love to know, so the second of the last 3 questions is one thing that's on your bucket list that you like to share.
I love road trips. I really do. And one of the things I thought about is I would love to drive across Canada. I'd love to see this vast country. I love wilderness. I don't love a lot of nature so much. Comfort. I like comfort.
Are you sure you want to cross Canada if you don't like nature so much?
Big chunks of Canada.
Or are you going to have, maybe if it's, supposed to be really comfy, you could get one of those, pop star tour buses.
Yeah, maybe that would work. A very comfy RV. But yeah, road trip, Canada. There's so much to this country I'd love to see. And I would really, that would be super cool.
That's great. Okay, cool. And last question, what makes you dance?
The obvious, because I'm from the West Indies. I love music, but that's just obvious. People. Honestly, people. I have been tremendously blessed. My daughter is just turned 21, and she has the most generous spirit, and I am so grateful for her. I have a fabulous new partner who loves me to death, and I am truly grateful for that. And my friends who, I'm constantly wanting to challenge myself, do more, do this, do it faster, do it higher, despite my bad back and my terrible knees. And they're just so supportive. And so, yeah, people in my life have been and will continue to be just gifts.
Yeah, beautiful. The ones that go on a dance with. Yeah. Beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much for your time today and talking with us. We'll make sure we'll pop all the relevant links in the show notes. People can connect with you as well. And thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you, Nadine. Thank you to the Coach Me community. I hope for the little nuggets of something for people to take away.
Oh, totally. I guess so. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Karen Flynn talking about stepping up, being brave, and being the role model so many of us are looking for. So what step will you take to embrace your experience? If Karen's topic, questions, and advice resonated with you and you'd like to have a free initial coaching chat with her, simply book your request at coachme.global/book. That's coachme.global/book. Thank you for tuning in. Stay curious. Nadine.